Most brands think they sell luxury. Very few actually create desire. This is the difference. The Future of Luxury podcast with Dr. Daniel Langer. So welcome to a new episode of the Future of Luxury podcast. And today, as you can already see from our background, we are in a very special place. I'm here with Michael Wunderman in his office in Palma de Mallorca. And this is a huge pleasure and privilege for me to have Michael on the show. Actually, I think, Michael, I asked you about a year ago or a year and a half ago if you wanted to come to the podcast. I remember you were saying we are not yet ready.
We're not ready yet.
Yeah, and now Michael is ready. So Michael just launched his new watch brand, watch and jewelry brands, House of Wunder, last week. And this week is a very special week also because you have your first customer event with the brand. And so Michael is ready today to share his vision, to share his story. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to have you here, I should say.
Yeah.
Because living in Palma is a blessing, but it's also far away from everybody. All the centers of the universe, I should say. But we love it here. It's a great place.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Michael, tell us a little bit about you and about House of Wunder.
A little bit about me is I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and am the son of Severin Wunderman, who created Gucci timepieces in the 70s. And after Gucci, he purchased Corum timepieces. I was lucky enough to work with both of those companies and learn directly underneath my father on how to be a watch designer and a watch businessman. So, what else about me? I mean, there's a lot of things about me, but I would rather just talk about what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So, House of Wunder is the accumulation of 50 years of Wunderman creativity. So, my father created Gucci watches in the 70s, and he sold it in the late 90s. I was lucky enough to work with him I worked with him my whole life because I worked as a boy during my vacations or during my after school. I would go to the office and really see the ins and outs of the business, starting from zero, where my father used to travel the world with a suitcase, a collection, and he would tell me he would take two belts and tie it together on his belly when he slept so that no one would steal it from him, to going door to door and opening retailers one by one. Ultimately, he made it up to 1 million units a year with 6,000 points of sale. So I saw from the beginning to the end. Of course, I didn't probably appreciate it or understand everything at the time, but thinking back on it today, it was very formative. Seeing him accomplish such great feats was pretty impressive, and I guess gave me the confidence to try to do a little bit of that on my own and create my own watch brand and jewelry brand. But I have to say the watches came first and the jewelry came second, but they are both, I'm proud of both of what I've created here. And I decided to put my name on the top of on the front of the door, on the front of the building. The House of Wunder is a play on my name, Wunderman. And I think, it's been 30 years since I've been in the business now, when I started full-time with Gucci, and then ultimately becoming the president of Corum, and then taking over the design and the creations of Corum with my father, of course. He stepped back and became the chairman of the board, where I became the president, but we still worked very closely together to the very last very last days of his life in 2008, and then I continued on for several years afterwards until about 2010 is when I exited the business. And then I took a little sabbatical and I went and tried my hands at different things. Always creative though, always a creative outlet, either designing homes or producing films. Ultimately led me back to designing watches and jewelry.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I hope that wasn't a little too long-winded, but
no, this was perfect. And I remember when I think it was during our first meeting when you showed me a vintage Rolex watch, and I remember that this watch had like the bracelet had a play that you don't have anymore in modern watches. Yes. And I remember you telling me that there is something really magical about pieces that are almost, that have a little bit of an imperfection in a way, and that kind of feel alive, and that also this was a big inspiration for the way how you design. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So when you wear jewelry and watches after some time, they bend and mold to you. So I thought, why can't we have that when you have a new watch or a new jewelry piece? Something that just wraps around the wrist like it's been a part of you for 20 years. So I analyzed what made the vintage watch bracelets flex so much and have the bend in it, and I came up with an idea to get that movement straight off the production line instead of having to wait a decade or two to have that. So I came up with the idea of the Wonder Flow, which allows the bracelet to flow and move like no other metal, almost like a chainmail. It's like it's a very intricate design that allows the metal to move in a way that is more like a fabric. And it wraps around the wrist and it curves around the neck and it dangles from the ears with motion and movement. And I like that that sensuality almost. When you touch the piece, it's soft. Yeah. When you see metal and you think of metal, you don't think of softness, but it is very soft. And it's that was the biggest inspiration for me when I came up with the idea of the micro links and the small smaller links, taking what normally a watch bracelet is 3 links across to 17 links across. It adds a level of complexity to the design and to the production, but it all comes together to really make that suppleness and that softness and that movement. The movement is ultimately, you don't want to have something that doesn't move with you. You want to have something that moves with you. It moves on the wrist. It fits and wraps, and it just drapes on the skin, and it feels like a second skin. That was the inspiration, and ultimately the design DNA that I came up with. After I came up with the idea of the micro links, I designed about 8 watches, 10 watches in 1 week. I locked myself in my office and I just started designing, and I had an explosion of creativity, and ultimately I chose 4 models. I've developed 4 families of watches, and they each have their own unique spirit, but they all have a design DNA that connects them together. And then the jewelry collection also reflects the same concept of the watches. So, right now the first watch we are launching is called the Amplifier, and we have the bracelets and the necklaces and the earrings that complement the watch. But I have 3 other families that are already in production, and we're going to be introducing it slowly over the next couple of years. I don't like the way companies launch 5 different families at one single time.
Yeah.
I believe it confuses people. I believe that one piece is going to overshadow all the others because that one is the one that everyone likes, and then doesn't give a chance for the others to live or to breathe or to come into their own. So I came up with this idea to just slowly launch the brand and slowly introduce the evolution of the design, so that each piece has its own moment in time.
And the amplifier is, if to me, it's almost like a piece of art, and I know how important art is in your life, and it has a kind of a interesting, almost juxtaposition between being a squared watch, but also being a round watch in a way, depending on how you look at it. And there's definitely a lot of influence also from Art Deco from that period in your designs. So tell us a little bit about that design influence and also the influence of art on your work.
Okay, the design of the Amplifier was actually the last watch I designed. It was exciting for me when I came up with the idea for the full bracelet integration to the case, so that it was just more like a one piece, just a continuous flow of energy from the case to the bracelet and then back around. It was like just an infinite flow of energy. And then I always love square watches, but they never sit well on my wrist because they're too flat. And then the case, the lugs stick out on both sides, so curving it, but also maintaining the square. I mean, it's actually not a perfect square. It's a few millimeters off, but you get the impression that it is a perfect square. And then, you know, the case width, I always felt like square watches, anything above 36, it felt like a 39, a 40. It just felt oversized. Mine is only 34.5, and everyone who hears that is like, doesn't look like a 34.5. It looks like a 37, 38, but then you put it on any size wrist, women, men, it fits perfectly. It wraps around any size wrist, and you know, took me years of development to get it just right. I mean, I look at everything with a microscope, and you know, the way it sits on the wrist, the way the first links drape, the way that the dial meets the bezel on the inside of the case. I didn't want to have any visible edges of the dial because the stone dials always have a rough edge, and the metal dials are obviously machined perfectly metal, so they have a smooth edge. So the construction of the dial, you can show the joint of the dial meeting the inner bezel of the case. But with the stone, you have to have it has a little tiny micro rough edges because of the nature of stone. You can't have it so perfectly smooth. So I can, just adjusting so that the stone goes under the dial, so it hides that bezel and it hides that edge. These little details, it took me years to just perfect, and I wanted to make sure that the watch was as perfect as I can get it when I introduce it. Obviously, it's going to evolve like all designs do, but I really feel confident that what I've designed is going to withstand the test of time.
Yeah. And I think also one thing that I find fascinating is, especially for the watches, that fundamentally there's never two House of Wunder watches that are totally alike because of the stones.
The stone dials make it unique because no two stone dials are the same.
Yeah.
And I love that. The watch is actually frames the stone, and it allows the stone to be the star of the show.
Yeah.
And then I forgot to mention that all my watches will come in two sizes, and I'm not calling them men or women. They're small, medium, large, etc. It's actually micro, mini, midi, maxi, and mega. Those are what I've come up with as the different size ranges. So the mini amplifier stacks so well with bracelets. I love that. You can wear the mini with the bracelets, where if you just want to have the watch and a more traditional alone, the MIDI is looking great. I've already designed the Maxi. It's in production, so that's right now the trend has been for smaller watches. I designed these pieces 4 or 5 years ago from the beginning, so I'm glad to see that trend is still here, and I think it's going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
The larger watches are just, I'm guilty of contributing to the craze of the large watches in the, Corum days when we had the bubble watch of 48 millimeter, 45 millimeter Admiral's cups, 52 millimeter. I think I did my largest one. So that was a moment, but I think that moment's passed. So I don't think that we're going to be wearing those type of watches. Still, there's people that appreciate them, and I tell you, the watchmakers love it because it gives them more real estate and more space to get crazy with their movements and their complications and everything. But I prefer simplicity now. I prefer wearability. I prefer durability. I don't like big, bulky pieces that overpower everything. I feel like everything is an ensemble these days. You don't want to just have one single piece. You need to really have a watch, a bracelet, a necklace, sunglasses, hat. I think that accessorizing, is so important in style today, and expressivity. Your expression of, the belt buckle, your shoes, it all has to be harmonious together to work to create your visual representation of yourself. So the style, I think the styles evolved from, audacious to more of a classy look. And I thought that the Amplifier was a very classy design that was the right time to come out was with now. Square watches are in vogue right now. Stone dials are in vogue. This was things I designed many years ago. So it's you never know what the future is going to hold, obviously. But I just design it for me, and then I think people will like it because I think people want originality, and I think that. Most watches today are designed by committee, and designed by committee doesn't have a spirit or a soul anymore. It gets diluted when you have so many different comments and changes, as opposed to one single person who designs it, sells it, is the president, the designer. I don't know of many others that are doing what I'm doing, which is putting myself as the face, the designer, and all out there saying this is my original creation. I'm proud to present it, and I take full credit for it. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you love it, even better. But at least I had the courage to put myself out there. It took me a while to get that. I was always behind the scenes more, and my father was a larger than life character who dominated any room that he walked into. And it took me a moment, it took me a decade, I would say, to really step out of the shadows of my father. When he passed away, his art collection, I bought it from his estate. All the money from his estate was donated to charity, so he didn't give anything to his children. We had the opportunity to buy it from his estate at fair market value, appraised by auction houses. So I bought what I could afford, and I thought preserving my father's legacy was going to be preserving his art collection. After about 10 years of that, I decided I think it's time to let that go, and I released that and I sold the art, and it was very cathartic. It was it gave me the space to create House of Wunder. Actually, I believe that holding on to the past so tightly was actually holding me back, and I believe that creating House of Wunder is the ultimate tribute I could make to my father.
Yeah.
And this company is not just me. It is my whole family, my father's history, his successes, learning of the less successful parts as well has probably guided me more than anything.
Yeah, I was also just reflecting when you were speaking about the watches being in a sense part of the expression of your personality and how you dress, and part of like a look that you have. And also when you spoke about the Amplifier Mini as part of like stacking, I was just reflecting also, in a sense it's almost a little bit of a circle from the beginnings of your father, who in a sense really invented the fashion watch category. And maybe House of Wunder is not so much a fashion watch in the same way as Gucci was, because I think also from the craftsmanship and the artistry, it's much more evolved in that. But I feel also that there is still a lot of the spirit of basically completing a look that is in there.
Absolutely. It's all about style. Yeah. It's, to me, watches are more than just complications and movements and components. They are ultimately accessories, style accessories, and you want to wear the watch that makes you feel good and that makes you look good. You don't want to wear an ugly watch that people will judge, or that doesn't make you feel powerful. It makes you feel good. And it's not just because someone else says that this is a good watch to have that you should buy the watch. I'm totally against that. If you love a design, you should just buy it, no matter what the price point is, obviously. I wish my watches can be less expensive, but they're very complicated to manufacture. So I have to charge that, because of just limitations on the production. And to have that quality, that level of quality that I demand, I have inspired from Gucci, the fashion design. I call it more design-led as opposed to fashion. And then I have the experience with the manufacturing Corum watches, which was the Golden Bridge, multiple tourbillons. We did a lot of hand-painted dials. We did a lot of amazing jewelry pieces with some of the most amazing jewels you've ever seen in your life, with sapphires and not only diamonds and rubies, and just a plethora of so many beautiful jewelry pieces. So this is just the beginning. I'm easing my way into it. We have some beautiful gold and diamond pieces with the azure malachite dial. It looks amazing. I've never seen a more beautiful dial material combination personally. Typically everyone uses turquoise with gold, and I feel like that's a little bit played out now. And I'm trying to be unique. I'm trying to have something different. So fusing the high-end manufacturing with the more style design driven is where House of Wonder is. House of Corum, I almost said, but House of Wonder is a fusion of those two elements. So it's a combination of my experience at Gucci and my experience at Corum.
And I had the opportunity to visit the Watches and Wonders together with you, and also see how you introduced the watches and jewelry collection to the press for the first time a few weeks ago. And from my memory, also the reception also of the jewelry pieces was exceptional. I remember people were going almost crazy when they saw those pieces, and it was, to me, when I observed people touching the pieces, putting them on, wearing them, it was really like a sensual moment where people really feel for the first time again how something can really feel in the hands, and which is crafted so exceptionally. Maybe how was it for you when you observed that? And tell us a little bit about the philosophy behind the jewelry designs.
Well, showing the product for the first time at Watches and Wonder was amazing. I mean, seeing the reaction from everyone was powerful for me. Jewelry the jewelry pieces are much, I feel jewelry is much easier to understand very quickly, whereas my watches are more complicated. So visually seeing the products, the jewelry has always had the more immediate response from people, positive response, whereas the watch in a picture doesn't really do it justice. As soon as people touch the watches, and the jewelry, of course, but the watches especially, because the bracelets of the watches are unique. They're similar to the jewelry, but the bracelets of the watches are entirely different construction than the jewelry. So I've had some very big watch people tell me that this is the nicest bracelet they've ever touched. It's not seen, it's touched.
Yeah.
That's to me the biggest compliment I can get, is that it looks beautiful, it's got a beautiful symmetry, a beautiful design, but it's the nicest thing that they've ever touched before. That's like, to me, exactly what I've been trying to achieve, because it's all about touch. The watch is a very intimate object for men and women. It's something that is a part of your whole day. It's not something that you just put on and take off. I want you to forget that it's there almost, but only by the wearability. But it's there, and it's a source of inspiration. It's a source of beauty. I think when you see something beautiful, you feel better. When you see a beautiful object, whether it's in nature or whether it's man-made, it gives you joy. It gives me joy to see a beautifully designed piece of jewelry, a watch, a building, an automobile. There's so many things that give you joy, but the beauty, when something is done well and it looks beautiful and it feels beautiful, that's another level. When you have the combination of looking beautiful and then feeling beautiful, there's a lot of jewelry out there that you put on and you can't wait to take it off when you have the moment. You're wearing it just for an event or for a special occasion, and then you're counting the minutes to get it off of you. I want the opposite. I want people to go to sleep with it and not even realize that they've slept with it, because it's so comfortable that they've been wearing it all day. I know that from the earrings, the weight of the earrings is very important. My earrings are very wearable. They dance on the ears. The necklaces just drape around the neck and the collarbones, and they just they meld with the body, and I feel like that's a huge part of it. And seeing the reaction at Watches and Wonder, that everyone's that they were just in awe, because it's a simple looking design. It's not a complicated looking design. It's a very complicated manufacturing design. So when they touch the watches for the first time, and the bracelets, just the watches without the movements have over 400 components, and having them 400 pieces coming together to make something that looks simple is not a simple task. And then you have the jewelry, where the placement of the links for every necklace has to be precise, where we have the curve has to be precise, and they all have to work together to look like a single piece of a single chain going together. But each link has its purpose and has its own design and placement, and it has to be precise, or else you'll visually see it instantly. If one link is out of place, or if one link is bigger or smaller, it'll ruin the whole effect and the beauty. So the construction of the jewelry has to be so precise, and the tolerance is so precise. My jewelry manufacturer has told me that the quality that I have demanded from him is more than he's ever been demanded by any of his other brands that he works with. And they work with the biggest brands in the world. So that, to me, I have an eye for detail that is, I would say, very special. Whenever I look at something and I work on something, I go into the minute details beyond what normal people do. That is one of my strengths. I can, when I designed houses, I designed it from the top exactly like I was designing watches. Every single wall, every single window, every single tile has to be precise, and it has to go in the right place, in the right direction. And I look at the same thing for my jewelry and for my watches. It has to be perfect, and if it isn't perfect, it doesn't get introduced to the market.
Yeah, I can just confirm it. I'm wearing the Amplifier today in the steel version with this very beautiful malachite dial, and it's just first of all, the way it looks when it's on the wrist is just stunning. And there is this, to me, what is beautiful is like when you look to it from the side, not even looking at the dial. It looks not even like a watch band. It looks like something else, like a jewelry piece.
It's more jewelry than it is a watch band.
And then it has this wonderful, almost dance of light that is reflected. And if I look at any of my other steel watches, I've never seen any light effect like this, even just how it reflects that. And then you look at it from the top, and here it looks like so incredibly elegant. It's also interesting how the same piece has almost talks in kind of different languages at the same time, and by this creates something truly unique.
Finishings are critical, and when you're working with metals, especially, I love mixing shiny, matte textures. I love the combination of those things. The watches, the link has polished, it has sandblasted, it has brushed. The direction of the brush changes everything. The coarseness of the brush changes everything. There's so many different elements that are going on at the same time that's it keeps your eyes guessing. It doesn't just say, oh, this is a polished piece, this is a brush piece. There's you look at it, it comes alive with the light, and then you have all these different finishes. When you have 17 links across, you have 17 opportunities to make an impact visually. So with the sandblasted and the brushed mixed with the polished and the diamonds and the stone and the hands and the markers and the angles, it all comes together to create something exciting. It gives you excitement. And I'm very proud of this piece. I think it's a beautiful, elegant, wearable design, and it's been well received by the market.
Your brand is about refine your wild, and also knowing you a little bit now, to me, it's also, in a sense, also a bit of an expression of your own character and your own lifestyle and your own way of being. So tell us a little bit about Refine Your Wild and what that means to you.
Well, I believe it started, I gotta say, with my father again. He showed me that you can have elegance, but also have a good time. And that's the refinement, is the beauty that we surround ourselves with, the way the way we carry ourselves, the way that we feel inside about buying beautiful objects or wearing a beautiful clothing or having a beautiful meal. But you can have that beautiful meal, on the back of a yacht, or you can have it on a beach in the sand, and it doesn't take away from the beauty of that experience. So the elegance combined with the adventure is the Refine Your Wild. I love, the way a beautiful car looks, but then when you floor it and go around a corner or a racetrack in it, it becomes a wild experience, and it's a beauty combined with the adventure again. It's that juxtaposition is what I am, and I think most people are. Most people have their job that they go to, and they get, they wear a suit, or they have to be someone, but then on the weekends they're who they really want to be, and that's the combination that I want to strive in the storytelling and the branding of House of Wonder.
Yeah.
It's you can be who you want to be at all times. And then, when you're wearing a House of Wonder, if you're in the office and you can't wait for the day to end, it should give you that hope that it's going to be done soon, and you can go and have fun after work or over the weekend. You've got some exciting plans, or you're going to see your kids or have dinner with your wife or go to a concert, and you splurged a little bit extra on getting those front row seats, and those that's an experience that you can never replicate it, and these are the moments that you have to take advantage of. And it's all about loving completely, loving yourself, loving life, loving the experience that comes with this crazy trip that we're on.
I'm Dr. Daniel Langer. I advise some of the most iconic luxury brands in the world, and I'm also the executive professor of luxury strategy at Pepperdine University, and I teach luxury at NYU. The luxury industry is changing faster than ever before. Dramatically shifting consumer expectations, the rise of Gen Z and AI are redefining what luxury means today. And this means companies must operate in a radically different way. This moment demands action. And this is why we created Equity Intelligence. It redefines luxury training for top management, marketing, sales teams, and client-centric roles. It's an innovative digital learning solution that equips your teams with the strategic capabilities needed for the next era of luxury. Our platform delivers real-world insights and tools your teams can apply immediately. The world's leading brands trust us to prepare their teams for this transformation, and this is your moment to future-proof your organization. Let's go back, let's dive a little bit deeper into the influence of art. We have this very beautiful art piece here behind us. And I think you mentioned that this was a gift of Aldo Gucci, if I'm not mistaken, to your father.
This
originally.
was a gift from Aldo Gucci to my father. The artist slips my mind, but he is an Italian artist. I believe he's still alive. Mm-hmm. And this looks just like my father. I don't know if it's him, but I like to think it is. This piece I've brought it with me from Los Angeles, and it traveled across the seas recently and joined me here again. I've always had it in my house, usually in my living room, but I don't have a place for it at home here in Mallorca. So I thought it would fit on the wall. Little did I know, I only had about 10 centimeters around around the whole thing for it to fit. Luckily, it fit perfectly, and I love seeing it every day. I walk inside my office, and it just reminds me of my father. It's called the Artist Studio, so it's it's got a lot of things going on here, and I like it's dark, but it's also beautiful. You have the light on the ladies. You have the angels fallen. You have the skulls, and I love the spirit, and you're never alone when you have this, when you're in the room with this piece. You have a lot of people with you, right?
Yeah.
So I mean that's I love art. Unfortunately, most of my art collection burnt in the fires last year, so I haven't really rebuilt my collection. I've been focusing on building this business. But luckily this piece was at my offices in Los Angeles, and it didn't get lost in the fire. I'm very happy about that. So it also is a reminder of, not everything is impermanent. And, luckily this piece survived, but I lost a lot of other pieces, unfortunately. And I'll rebuild it eventually, but right now this business is the most important for me. Yeah. But art is, I think one of the greatest gifts that we have as people, and one of our greatest talents is creating art. And my father was an amazing art collector. His museum in the south of France, with the Jean Cocteau collection, unfortunately was badly damaged during a hurricane about 7 years ago. And my niece, Chloe Cassens, has now taken the mantle to revive the collection and to reopen the museum, and hopefully it'll be opened again soon.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of, seeing. My father told me that was one of the proudest days of his life when he received the Legion of Honor in Paris by I believe it was Sarkozy, who was president at the time.
Yeah. So art and beautiful objects probably have been always inspiration. So if you think back on your childhood, what was maybe the first kind of art piece or luxury piece, if you want, that you remember?
Being in Los Angeles as a kid, everything was about cars. And my father always had a Mercedes 450 SL convertible, and I loved that car. But when he got his first Rolls Royce, that was, just putting my feet in that carpet in the back of the Rolls Royce, how deep that carpet felt, and then touching the steering wheel and how soft and fine it was, and then the ride gliding down the road and the headliner. And then he also had one of the first, cellular phones in the car. I remember that being like the wow moment, like, whoa, this is next level. This is what luxury is.
Yeah.
Being in the back of a limousine or back of a Rolls Royce with a driver, and just seeing that, and that was pretty impressive to me. The art, my father had art always in the house. He was the largest collector of Jean Cocteau in the world, but he slowly built his collection. But when he started collecting Cocteau when he had nothing. It wasn't like he just decided, now I have money, I'm going to start collecting art. My father started collecting Cocteau when he couldn't afford it. And I remember hearing the story. He saw it in a window, and he fell in love with the piece, and he used his whole paycheck to buy it. And let's just say his wife was not very happy with him at the time. But that was my dad. He risked everything for beauty, and knew that he would just, he'd make it back some other way, or he would eventually make it back. But he always gave more than he had, and he always spent more on beautiful things than he should have, let's say. But it worked out in the end.
And being basically very close, and having not only grown up with your father, but also observing him working in the industry, also being such a legend in the watch industry, what would be something that you kind of took away from that? Maybe something that your father taught you without really being aware that he taught you?
Humility, I suppose. My father was a tremendous philanthropist, but he did it anonymously. He donated most of his money to charity without anybody knowing it except us in the family. He always told me, you should never get any recognition for doing charitable work. God knows what you did, and that's all that matters. If you do charity to get recognition, or to better yourself, or to benefit you in any other way, it negates what the charitable act was. It's no longer charity. It's self-promotional. It's not a selfless. So doing that, having humility and being selfless was a big part of my father's. And also believing in yourself and in your vision. He was a visionaire who was told many times that what he was doing was impossible, and he usually told people to go fuck themselves, and not so many in those terms. It was he was very passionate, so he would just not let people discourage him from what he knew was the right thing to do. So that was a big part of it. His lesson to me was like, believe in yourself, follow through with your vision, and ultimately you'll succeed that way. And I mean, I even am guilty of telling him, you're crazy, I can't believe you're doing this, but then he ultimately proved me wrong, as he proved so many other people wrong in so many different ways. So my conviction and my confidence and my vision is what I would say he gave me, he provided me.
Yeah. And then when you think back about your time at Gucci, what would be interesting things to share? Because I can imagine that building this kind of fashion watch empire, and you mentioned that in the end there was in the warehouse more than 1 million watches, and I believe this is more or less what Rolex is selling in a year. So your father built Gucci to one, if not the biggest watch company at that time by volume. So
it was Rolex and Gucci. We were the two biggest.
Yeah. So tell us maybe a few things a few adventures, a few interesting things that you encountered or that you remember of that time.
Wow, I started full-time work at 19, but I had been working at Gucci since I was a little boy, but then about 16, I would say, I started working every vacation, every school vacation. I would go to the warehouse, the offices in Irvine at the time. He had a factory in Switzerland that he had opened, and I used to travel with him every summer to go to Switzerland. We would live in our house in London, and then eventually he got a home in the south of France, and then an apartment in Paris. So we spent a lot of summers bouncing around between Switzerland, Paris, London, and the south of France. And I started working full-time at 19, and then I was working in the Irvine office and worked my way. I worked in the marketing department.
Yeah.
I was working under the head of marketing, but the marketing department wasn't the Gucci marketing department. It was the Gucci watches marketing department. So we were just responsible for Gucci watches, packaging, displays, sales support. So I learned about, running a watch, specifically watch business. And I flew to, when I started working, Tom Ford had just taken over, and the whole creative vision was changing. So we had to match what the Gucci corporate was providing us. So my father said, "Okay, you're going to Thailand. We're making 1 million watch boxes a year with this company in Thailand, and I need you to get us 10% cheaper than what we're doing now." So I flew to Thailand and negotiated us 15% better than for the new watch boxes and designs. So, going to Bangkok and seeing these factories making all of these amazing watch boxes. They weren't only making it for us; they were making it for every other brand. That was my first road trip experience, and I loved it. I loved working with the suppliers. I loved designing the new boxes. I loved seeing the development from the concept to the final production. Eventually, we did new displays, and now I am working again with that watch watch box manufacturer. Those times that I worked with them 30 years ago, I'm still friendly with them, and we're only doing a few hundred boxes now, a few thousand, with the jewelry combined with the watches. So I'm let's just say a small player to them.
Yeah.
But because of my experience and my history with Gucci and my father's relationship with them, we get treated like a real player. That opening the door. My history with Gucci and Corum has definitely allowed me to be treated with much more respect and professionalism than I think someone who just walks off the street and decides, I'm going to be a watchmaker, I'm going to go make my own watches.
Yeah. And
then those people have to have a lot of money to throw away. Let's just say, because they're going to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Just traveling. That first experience with Gucci and going to Thailand. Then I went to Paris to work with a photographer that did all the Gucci campaigns, and that was beautiful to experience. Shooting in a professional studio environment with a top photographer that now I've done hundreds of photo shoots since then, but I'll never forget the first one. Was. Yeah, I remember his name, Guido Mocafico. He's still around and he's still shooting, and he's one of the top product photographers, I think, alive today. So working with him and seeing how he shot the G watch with this in full analog, of course. There's no digital back then. It was all analog. Everything was film still. There was this was when film was still the dominant medium. So just seeing that, and then seeing the whole evolution from when Gucci was doing, I think we were about 5,000 stores when I started, and then we were just the dominant players in the whole shopping mall department store game. It was Gucci watches, Raymond Vale watches, David Yurman jewelry. We were like the kings of the shopping mall, the Macy's department stores. That was when that was the boom days, the heydays of the watch and the accessory jewelry business. And then seeing that evolve, where the shopping malls are dead now and the department stores are all suffering. That's kind of sad, because I used to work behind the counter at all of these places and meet the customers, and really have an interaction. I feel like that's sad to say that most of that has gone online now. You miss that direct communication with the consumer, and the consumer can try on 5 or 6 watches and to make the right decision, not just search online and then make a guess and that doesn't work, I gotta send it back, and there's no connection anymore. We have with House of Wunder, we don't have that department store. We don't have that. We are going to the best retailers. We are going to have that intimate connection with our customers, because you have to have that with what I'm doing now. With the jewelry and the watches. They need to be touched. You need to wear them. You need to put it on. You need to have the confidence that, whoa, this is something serious that I can feel confident wearing, and know that the quality is second to none. And you just don't. It's been a big evolution. Even the past couple of years, you saw brands becoming mono brands. And I think that it's going back to multi brands. People want to go back into the stores and want to have that experience in the shop, and not just have one brand that they think is going to be. I'm going to just go, and this one boutique has the one brand and it has the watch that I want for sure. Where people want to go and experience multiple brands and have multiple choices and options. And I think it's an opportune time
Yeah.
for me to be joining the game, because I feel like my brand will succeed at those multi-brand stores.
Yeah.
Once you put me on compared to the other brands, I outshine them, and I will. And that's my ultimate goal, is to really dominate at the retail level. Very exclusive, very limited distribution. We're going to be in 10 stores by the end of the year globally. Maybe we'll do 20 by next year, but I want to be very selective on where we go and how we get in there, and what and how we're represented, and who is representing us is very critical.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that here in Palma we've partnered with the Relojeria Alemana. They are the best in the Balearic Islands. They've been around for almost 176 years now, and it's really an honor to work with such a storied company, and I want to work with those type of distributors around the world.
Yeah, and I think also your experience, as you just mentioned, working behind the counter, knowing your customers one-on-one, that also inspired you to completely change the online game, so to speak. So what can customers expect when they want to buy a House of Wunder watch online? Because I think you are creating not just a traditional kind of sales channel where people put something in the cart and check out. They can, but you also offer really like a one-on-one concierge service.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, we're doing a concierge service because our products are high-ticket items, and people need confidence before they close a purchase like that. Being so new, we don't have the reputation yet. So we have a design studio, concierge studio in-house with a scheduling system via our website, where we can schedule one-on-one presentations. We can send you personalized videos of anything that you're interested in, and we are trying to build the ultimate digital luxury experience. The website is very important, obviously, so we have to have all the information on there. We have to have high quality imagery. We have to have usability, ease of use. Our products availability is up to date on each item. We are, we're very proud of the displays that we've made also. So the website is hoping to lead to a real world experience. That to me is my ultimate goal, is to provide the luxury concierge service online, but ultimately meeting my customers in person and providing them an in-person real life experience at either a key retailer, or I'm going to be doing traveling show in Spain, Germany, and America. I've chosen those 3 markets as my first focus. Being in Spain is obviously the reason for that. In Mallorca, we have a very large German community. So Germany is another market that we're expanding into, and America is the largest watch consumer, jewelry consumer in the world. So, and also they have such a amazing celebrity editorial. They are the leaders of the world in determining what is tasteful and what is what people ultimately gravitate towards.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how your past experiences that are I would say pretty much second to none and very unique, how they all influence what you do. And I think you and your father also had the opportunity, for example, to work closely with Tom Ford. You mentioned that in the time when you were at Gucci watches, that he also completely changed the creative direction of Gucci, as we all know. How was working with a personality like Tom Ford?
I only met Tom once, and that was there wasn't very much interaction with Tom. He and my father met annually to review the products.
Yeah.
And let's just say it was a little contentious at times. My father's specialty is designing watches and knowing what sells. Tom is a fashion designer and a creative genius, and when you have two creative geniuses together, it makes a little bit of a firework. So I remember when I think I was 16 or 17 at the time, and I went to Paris with my father to one of the design meetings with Tom. And it was very cordial, but there was a lot of tension. They didn't get along very well, let's just say that. And it was, interesting to see that dynamic. I'd never seen anyone really challenging my father before, but there was different views. My father knows what sells and knows how to design a watch, and is always inspired by the fashion of Gucci. So he always found a way, utilizing the horse bit, the belt buckles, different parts that Gucci would create for their fashion, their handbags, their shoes, their belts, their accessories. He would learn how to translate that into watches successfully, very successfully. So Tom had a complete new shift. My father was still very much inspired by the older designs, but he embraced the Tom Ford era very much. And I remember there was a time where my father presented Tom the G watch, the square G watch, and Tom absolutely said no to it. But there was a loophole that my father explored, was that a watch that was was previously released didn't require approval. So the square G watch was numbered as the same as a previous round G watch, and my father launched it without approval from Tom, and ultimately it became the biggest selling watch in the world. It raised our average price point from, I believe, $200 to $700 in a single year, and it turned out to be a runaway success.
Yeah.
So, and it became an icon. It's still to this day. I lost mine in the fire, but as soon as I bought a second-hand one on the market, just because I love having it in my collection.
Yeah, it also shows the audacity in a way, and what you said before, that your father had a very maybe clear view on how things should be, and then often or almost always time proved it right.
Yeah, it did. And I remember when the G watch became such a runaway success, this was the time where my father went to Rolex, and he asked them, "Can I borrow your diamond setters, because I heard they're the only ones that are good enough to set diamonds in steel." And they said, "Yeah, sure, nobody's gonna want diamonds in steel." And it was the biggest success in the world. And of course, there isn't a brand today that doesn't make a watch with diamonds and steel. But that was my dad. He, after the success of the diamond watch and the G watch, he leaned into that, and he said, "Okay, I'm going to do a solid gold version of this." And he created the G watch in precious metals, which was he dabbled in precious metals and precious watches, but Gucci was a fashion watch. But now the G watch opened the door, and the success of Tom Ford elevated the whole brand. So he created what he called the G300. And he said, "Okay, we're going to pick the 300 biggest retailers in the world, and those are going to be the only ones that exclusively have the 18 karat gold G watch collection." And then he looked at me and said, "Okay, you're going to travel the world and show it to everybody." So I strapped a suitcase of attaché filled with a few $100,000 of watches with a handcuff on my wrist, and I traveled the world. I think I was 21, and presented the gold G collection to the biggest retailers in the world. So that was an experience, to say the least. And then that was soon after he had to sell the Gucci wasn't renewing the licensing agreement, so we sold the company back to Gucci, and that was when my father and I stopped the Gucci game and went and designed our own watches with zero constraints and complete freedom, which was a liberating experience.
Yeah, and then basically came the acquisition of Corum.
It took a few years. We sold Gucci in '96. I believe they had a 3-year non-compete clause.
Yeah.
So we continued designing watches, and we approached other fashion houses. But this was, the late '90s. Everybody was going public. They didn't want to have licensing deals anymore. They wanted everything to be in-house. So we were unable to secure a new company, a new licensing agreement. The plan was for me to be the president of the brand, and so we could circumvent the non-compete with Gucci if I was the face and the president of the brand. So anyway, it didn't work out. We designed the bubble watch, we designed the trapeze, we designed many other jewelry, fashion styled watches. And then in '99, after the non-compete clause, my father started the negotiations with Corum, and in January 2000, I believe, we formally took over Corum, and I moved to Switzerland, and we took the watches that we had designed after Gucci and put Corum's name on it, and that was the birth of the rebirth of Corum. Was the bubble watch, which became an icon, and the trend of large watches became dominant in the entire market, and yeah, that was we ran with that.
I'm Dr. Daniel Langer, and after advising many of the world's most iconic luxury brands and teaching both at Pepperdine and NYU, I've seen how quickly the luxury industry is evolving. And the reality is, most universities simply can't keep up. Today's students want more than theory. You want industry-relevant skills and real frameworks. You want a clear path into fast-growing fields like luxury fashion, luxury beauty, luxury hospitality, and other luxury sectors. That's why we created something special, Equity Intelligence Academia. It's a rigorous, industry-backed luxury education ecosystem. It lets you add a globally recognized luxury certificate directly to your MBA or undergraduate degree. You'll get professionally produced video lessons, real case studies, practical toolkits, assessments, and a certificate recognized in the luxury industry. If you're ready to fast-track your career development, stand out in a competitive job market, this is your moment. Enroll in Equity Intelligence today and elevate your degree and your future.
So when you look back at your Corum years, would it be correct to say basically it was also for you and your father transition from fashion watches into really like fine watches and into basically almost like a complete different game of watchmaking?
Well, we had two levels. We had the fashion watches like the bubble, the trapeze, the oval, the heart watch, but then we had the coin watch and the golden bridge. And it was a juxtaposition of the two. It was like almost two different companies in one.
Yeah, and you also told me that in the beginning of Corum, there was almost like in a good way, a creative overkill. So there was a lot of different ideas that came, and then over time, you guys had to structure a little bit, you know, how to run that company and what is the focus of that. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, the 2000s, early 2000s was when we took over Corum and relaunched the brand. And you're right, we had a huge creative explosion because after 25 years of Gucci watches, my father had handcuffs, let's say, design-wise. He had to design watches that reflected the style of Gucci, but now he had no constraints. So we had an explosion of creativity, and unfortunately, I mean, that was a great way for us to get noticed.
Yeah.
And it was a great way for us, the brand, to get excitement, but as a business model, it's very difficult in that high end. When you don't have the million units that you're doing with a Gucci at a price point. I think our average price point was 7,000 at the time. So you had to really rebrand every year, and then if the watches didn't sell at the store level, we had to take them back. So then we had a shift in strategy where we leaned into the heritage of Corum. So we fused the heritage of Corum with the design of the Wundermans.
Yeah.
So we originally had an Admiral's Cup design. Then when I took over creation in 2003, 2004, I redid the Admiral's Cup. I relaunched the Romulus collection. We redeveloped the Golden Bridge movement. We reimagined the coin watch. We really leaned into the pillars, but we also had an amazing collection that we called the Prestige collection, and those were hand-painted, individual, one-of-a-kind dials. Those were extremely beautiful, high jewelry, baguettes, sapphires, the largest blue sapphires you've ever seen. And we had an amazing specialty division of jewelry watches that never saw the light of day. They were sold to individual customers, and we did a lot of one-of-a-kind pieces for people. It was really amazing to have that part of the business. Was really interesting. But then we were able to establish the pillars and grow the business significantly from there. From 2004 to 2008, we had a tremendous growth and a big a huge jump in turnover. Until the 2008 crisis knocked the wind out of everybody's sails and brought everyone back down to earth, let's say. But and then my father passed away literally months before the economy crashed and the real estate market took the whole luxury market down with it because of the mortgage crisis. And then that was when I exited the business and observed from far. I would think that it gave me an advantage to step away instead of being there the whole time. If I would still been in it now, who knows, I would maybe be still making 48 millimeter watches. And just working off of the heritage of the brand. But I'm trying to create a new heritage now. I don't want to be a heritage brand. I want to do something completely my own. And that's where I'm proud and I'm happy that the Corum chapter closed when it did, because I would probably still be there. It would be a much bigger company than it is today, I'll tell you that much. But I would also, be designing my Admiral's Cups and my Romuluses and my Golden Bridges, and I think I'm happy I'm not doing that right now.
It's also sometimes good to step back a little bit and open a new chapter. In the time at Corum, I'm also sure you met a lot of interesting personalities and had a lot of interesting adventures. If you like what you shared with Gucci, what would be maybe 2 or 3 things that you remember that were like kind of remarkable moments that stayed with you?
I mean, we had an amazing time at Basel Fair. One of the reasons why my father was so in love with the purchase of Corum was that they had the prime location at the fair. The Basel Fair predates Watches and Wonders. It was, I think, around since the 60s or something, but my father always ruled the Basel Fair. From the Gucci days, it was the busiest booth in the whole fair because obviously selling 6,000 retailers, 1 million watches, it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
But then with Corum, he got the premier positioning, and every year our booth was, let's say, just the most talked about. We always did the most audacious things. My father covered it one year in stingray, the whole booth in galusha, stingray skin. I'm telling you, the Save the Planet people were not happy about that. But we reused all of it. We made watch straps from it, and we didn't just use it once and throw it away. It was definitely reused. But going back to that, I think that might have been the year that Pharrell walked into our booth, and him and his partner Chad, they weren't what they are today. He wasn't Pharrell. He was the Neptunes, and he was just had a lot of success in music, and he hadn't been the fashion or style icon he was, but he came into the booth and I presented him a bunch of the new watches that year, and ultimately he purchased watches from his authorized dealer a few months later, but that was cool to have him. With Corum, it was really amazing to be the face of the brand because I would travel the world. I think I traveled 250 days a year, and every place I would go to was an event, literally. We would launch a watch, we would be opening a new store, we would be just hosting an amazing event or sponsoring amazing events, and that was really exciting to just have that energy, have that excitement. We were just on an upward trajectory for good 5 years before the party was over, but that was a fun time.
And it's unbelievable experiences that all kind of culminates now into House of Wonder. Yeah, and so after Corum, you took a couple of years away from actively designing watches and selling watches, and then pursued a couple of other ventures and adventures, so to speak, with your forays into designing houses and also filmmaking. So maybe talk a little bit about that phase in your life and how this also shaped what you're doing today with House of Wunder.
So after my father passed away in 2008, my passion for the watch business kind of fizzled. Not only because of his passing, but because the whole industry was in a doldrums, let's say. So I decided to step back, and we sold the company to a Chinese firm. And after that, I did a lot of soul searching and questioned, am I doing the watches because I like it, or is it because my father told me to do it? So I said, well, I'm from LA. I've always been intrigued by the film industry. So I said, let me go make some movies, see if I like that. I loved it. I loved making films. I loved being on set. I loved working with the actors, the directors. I loved producing it and contributing creatively to the script, to the story, to the locations, to this, everything from costume designing. I loved it. And reason I didn't pursue it further was because of the risk. It was very risky. And my 2 films I was very proud of making, but you know, there's a gatekeeper, and they if your film doesn't make it, you don't see a penny of your dollar. So I thought it's too risky for me, and I pivoted into the real estate game. My mother was a real estate broker since I was a child as well, and so I started developing homes and designing homes. And my first project was very ambitious. I ended up selling it it took me about 3 years to make it. I was so, let's say, caught up in the details, and I was designing it and over-designing it and redesigning it and change orders, and I learned a lot about construction in that first house. I ultimately ended up selling it for 17 million, and it just listed on the market a few years ago for 35 million. So I'm very proud of that house. And I designed, several others, but it's a long process making a house. Yeah. It's from start to finish a good 2 years, and that design element is fun for the first few months, and then it's into the minutiae about where does the ventilation go, where does what grout color do you want for the tile. I thought, okay, this isn't for me. And I questioned myself again, what do I love to do? A friend of mine in Los Angeles, who I didn't know, was a big watch collector. And then he started getting me into watches again. And I rekindled my passion for watches, and I started collecting watches again. And then I started collecting vintage watches. And then I started really appreciating watch design again. And going to Burning Man and going to music festivals and Tulum and this whole freedom of expression moment, house music. I loved the energy, and then men's jewelry became much more acceptable, and I've started wearing more men's jewelry, and then being the fusion of getting back into the watches and the jewelry, I had to figure out a way how to get back into it. All of a sudden, I became obsessed with figuring out how to get back into the watch business. And so I had that aha moment one day, and I designed 10 watches in a week. And then there's a difference between those designs to where I am today, but I knew I was onto something. And that's when I just contacted my team again in Switzerland, and like, okay guys, I'm back. I've got the designs, I've got the watches. Let's start working on it. So I contacted my design team again, and we started fleshing out my designs. And then I got in touch with the company that my father used to work with, Gucci. They made Gucci watches for my father before he had his factory. And so I reached out to them, and they're still in business. And the guy who's running it now is also was one of the CEOs of Corum after I had sold Corum. So we had a good rapport, and I met with them, and I enjoyed working with them, and we developed the new collection together. And then we've been working now for the past 3 years together. And now here we are. The first Amplifier pieces were delivered a few months ago. The jewelry collection, I'm working with a top production company here in Spain, and the head of that company used to work for me at Corum as well. Yeah. So like all of these relationships from my past came back to life and enabled me to develop and create what the House of Wunder is today. So like the watches are very jewelry inspired. And then it's funny that the watches inspired the jewelry. So the watches were inspired by jewelry, and then the jewelry was inspired by the watches, and it just all came together to create this magical experience. And and then working with you from the outset, you know, I told you before I had anything, I think I'm making a watch company, I need your help. And then you came on board and you helped me crystallize my message. And you know, I'm not a brand guy, let's say. I'm more of a designer. And I think one thing that my father taught me is know your strengths and surround yourself with the people that complement you. And I was very fortunate to meet you. And I think that our dynamic has created the House of Wunder together. And I don't think I could have done it without you, obviously. Having your vision and your way to take my vision and put it into words has been able to allow me to translate those words into visuals, into story, and working into creating something very cool.
Thank you. I think for me, also in you know, collaborating with you now over the last couple of years, to me this is like really the not only a dream project, because you know I really respect your work and also you as a human being, but also in a sense to me it's an ideal project because you have this incredible ability to listen, but also to challenge. So in both ways. And for example, for me in this process, the most important in the very beginning was to understand you as a human. And I think you remember that our very first sessions together, they were almost like, if I look back, almost like a psychology session, retrospectively. Because of course we did, you know, all the usual hardcore market analysis and so on. But this was basically the framework, because we had to understand in which reality are we operating, what are the different players doing. And you know, for me, not surprisingly, also in the watch industry, we found this incredible sea of sameness. And you know, also listening now to you over the last hour or so, it was so fascinating when you spoke about what you did in your previous ventures, of also observing your father, how often you guys went almost like against what was the mainstream kind of trend, and by this became very successful. And to me this was also something that kind of I tried to spark in our collaboration with House of Wunder, to see, you know, where is the industry heading, what are the players doing, what are the kind of conventions that maybe without the companies are even aware that they're just automatically doing, because everyone is kind of doing it, but then to find kind of your unique personality. And there is a word that actually comes to my mind very often when I think about this collaboration, and this is the word I think that you coined at some point, Forgemories. And I think you can probably define it better than anyone else. But tell us a little bit about Forgemories, and also how they maybe shaped the thinking and the philosophy behind House of Wunder.
Well, thank you for that. So life is full of experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And our memories are accumulation of those experiences. When you don't, our brain makes up a lot of our memories, right? We remember things the way we want to remember them. And sometimes when you have so many experiences and so much life that you've lived, you can't remember everything.
Yeah.
and those moments that you can't remember, but then all of a sudden you have that flash. Oh, I remember that now. That I coined the forgemory. It's a forgotten memory, but then you remember it. So you get that rush back for that moment that you completely forgot about. I mean, I'm getting old now. My memory isn't what it used to be, but having those flashes of emotions and experiences and memories, I feel like that's what kind of life is, a composition of all of these combined together. Your forgemories are cherished memories that become a fabric of your character, but you may not recall them. They're almost like subconscious, and that's what I want. I want to have a life that I have a lot of these experiences that are unforgettable inside. My spirit, my psyche remembers them, but they are, just a part of you. And I guess that's what it means to me.
Yeah. And these forgemories to me also were something that I, fell in love with your brand and with the first expression, the Amplifier, because also I remember you told me that a watch should not be something that you just keep in the safe.
Yes.
A watch should be something to wear and to bump against things and to accumulate the scratches. Embracing the scratches, the scars that come, because they also become almost like a storage for memories, as much as that they tell the time. And that was for me something that I personally fell in love with, because it's not only to me feel the House of Wunder watches feel like organic, they feel so beautiful on the skin, but also they become these beautiful objects that remind us also to live. And so I want to maybe explore a little bit with you this kind of philosophy and how that shapes every piece, every item that you're designing and that you're creating, this kind of intensity of life. How is this represented in your watches?
Well, when I see a watch that has, maybe it's a few years old and it's in perfect, pristine, mint condition, it makes me sad. I'm like, this is a work of art that's meant to be worn, but it's been sitting in a drawer. A craftsman, an engineer, there's a whole process before a person puts a watch on the wrist, and it has to be worn. I mean, to me, everything that, if you buy a nice car and put it in a garage, it's sad. Like, that is a sad feeling. A car should be driven. You should drive it. And, I love when I see, there's an extreme where people who drive a supercar every day as their everyday car, maybe it's not as practical, but, at least it's getting used and it's getting worn in. But, why? I don't think that people should be investing their time and their money in items that they're just putting in a drawer and hoping to sell one day for more than what they bought it for. Like, there's investments for that. These are objects of art, and you should wear it, and you should, scratch it up, and it should create memories with you. A lot of collectors now, if a watch is polished or if it's been repaired, it's less desirable. People don't want it. So I'm glad with that trend. It's amazing to, that, the watches that are selling at auction most are the ones that are as used as possible or as in the same condition as when they came from the factory. That's the motivation for people. It has the same beveling. It has the factory finishing. So, having this design with so many intricate links, it's very durable, and and all this movement kind of hides the scratches and it hides the imperfections.
Yeah.
But they're still there. If you look closely, I've been wearing this watch for a year now, and it looks beautiful to me still. It doesn't, but it has slight scratches, and it has slight, wear and tear, but it's still as good as, or even better than it was when I first put it on. It still fits me. It's reliable. It's beautiful. It still reflects the same way. But yeah, it has a little bit of dirt and it has a little bit of scratches. But so do you.
Yeah.
So does everybody. When you buy a pair of shoes and you polish them every day, what's the use? Wear your shoes, wear them out, get them dirty, scuff them up. I think the only thing that I don't like having scuffs and scratches is a car, because that finish and the paint is meant to be pristine.
Yeah.
But some car companies like Icon, they make trucks that look derelict, and they do it on purpose. Then it's beautiful, when it's a part of the car. I've had old cars, I've had new cars. None of them are perfect. There's always a scratch or a scuff or a ding, and you just have to live with it.
Yeah.
I scratched the wheels on my car the other day, and you cringe for a second, but then it's like, what am I gonna do? It'll probably happen again in a few months.
Gives you more permission to scratch it again.
Yeah, that's the thing. You get more permission to scratch again. But yeah, I want my watches, I want my jewelry to be worn. I want them to be, they have 5-year warranties on the watches. It's not like I have I'm not doing a 12-month warranty. I'm confident that the quality is there, and if you have any problems, just send it back. We'll fix it for you. I want these items to be worn for the rest of time. I mean, I'm hoping people will still be wearing this piece, these bracelets in 100 years from now. It's you take care of something, and it'll be, I'm not saying go and destroy things and go and step on them, but you're not if you're not going to war with the watch, and but your daily use should be daily worn. I feel like it's a big part of the brand, and it's a big part of who you are.
Yeah. And also, I think remarkable, you mentioned the test of time, and I'm certain that the Amplifier is going to be seen in a few years as a classic. For me also one of the proof points is the very avid collector community around the watches that you designed at Corum. And I remember you told me some time ago that there's still people who are actively collecting in forums and so on.
Yeah, I recently heard of a Corum bubble show. Where a collector who has over 100 Corum watches self-financed his own exhibition, and it had thousands of visitors, and showcasing my watches. Not only the watches, I was very proud of. I designed the packaging. Every Corum bubble limited edition watch that I did has a unique box that reflects the story of the watch, whether it's the Royal Flush Casino watch, whether it's the Roulette, or the Jolly Roger. I designed all these packagings, and they're all over the internet. The Bubble Corum limited editions are still asking above asking price. You have the pristine packaging. I love that the packaging is a part of the watch. It's not a separate thing. I'm very proud of our boxes at House of Wunder. I made a really cool box. I think my displays for the in-store displays, I'm super proud of. I think they're gorgeous, and we just put it in the store this week, and compared to all the other brands, mine stands out beautifully, elegantly. I think we've really knocked it out of the park. I'm proud of everything I do, from the watches, the jewelry, to the boxes, to the website, to the displays, to my warranty cards. Every single thing is put thought into. There isn't just an afterthought, just throw it in there. Every single part of the experience of a House of Wunder is part of the experience, and you have to look at every detail. And I think it's so important to really put thought and intention into every single aspect of it.
Yeah, and I can confirm. I remember, I think originally the plan was to launch the brand about a year ago, originally, and then you decided it's too early because not everything was yet to what you believed was the perfection that it needed to be.
Absolutely.
And then you said, okay, we will launch only in the moment when everything is 100% right.
Yeah, so it took much longer than I expected, but you know, I moved to a new country. I started a new life with my family, and it took a little bit longer than planned, but everything worked out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in every single thing happens for a reason, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Waiting for the right time. I think it's the right time. It's obviously a little bit of a slump in the watch industry. The Swiss manufacturers are running at lower capacity to preserve jobs. There's a furlough right now, so production times are extended. We're dealing with the post-pandemic glut, let's say, where the brands went a little bit crazy and thinking that this was going to last forever, that boom, but you've seen it now. We're at 2 years of decline in the luxury business. So I think it's a good time to launch a brand when it's a low point and establish yourself for when that high point returns, because it's cyclical, and you know, according to your estimates, that it's going to be a couple more years before that happens. So we are, you know, launching at this time, and we're also being able to build the back end, let's say. The customer service, to me, is paramount. The quality control, the user experience, the communication, you know, with not only our website, with our Instagram, our Facebook, our journal on the web, our, you know, brands have to be content creators these days. And I love that. I think it's great because you can be your own voice. You don't have to rely on third-party people to talk about you. You can express yourself in so many different ways now, and I love that. With you know, with social media, with YouTube, with, you know, so many different ways to communicate to the consumer now. It's a golden age of marketing.
Yeah. Maybe one more question on the feeling of House of Wunder. So when someone puts on one of your jewelry pieces or one of your watches, what would you say they will feel or they should feel? What is basically, from your designer ambition or the ambition of the creator, what basically is the feeling you want to evoke?
Well, the name says it all. The Amplifier. So the Amplifier, to me, is to amplify whatever your strength or your goals are. It's a talisman to give you permission to be more of yourself and to follow your dreams and follow your heart and imprint your own story into the watch. It's not to be just what I'm telling you it is. I want you to learn, I want people to feel empowered by wearing our products. And whatever it is to you, if it's having more confidence to do something that you always wanted to do, or to go talk to that person that you've always wanted to talk to, or reach out to the family member that you haven't spoken to in a long time, or, you know, make that, you know, take that leap of faith, and, you know, just be more adventurous, and to understand you don't have to do what everybody else is doing, because you know, it's the crazy ones that change the world, as Steve Jobs so eloquently said. You know, taking the chances and, you know, just stepping out of the comfort zone.
Wonderful. Since this podcast is called The Future of Luxury, and the what you just said also fits so beautifully maybe in a new way of seeing luxury, because maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago very often it was associated with maybe more like the bling bling or with an object, and what you just described is much more a mindset and maybe also a motivation in a way, an inspiration in a way. So where do you see the future of luxury? Is it more in terms of objects, or will it be more in terms of this kind of inspirational path?
I think it's experiential.
Mm-hmm.
You have to empower your customers. You have to make them feel something intense when they interact with your brand, not just with the product. Everything now has to be an event. Every moment, every touch point with the brand has to feel special, and I think that that is the future of luxury, where a brand can make you feel something the moment you interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, you have to have beautiful product, you have to have artistry, and you have to have magic, but you have to have a compelling story.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to just dictate what that is. You want everyone to have their own unique relationship with the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think is the future of luxury.
Yeah, wonderful. So Michael, for those who are watching or listening and who would either know more about House of Wunder or buy a timepiece or a jewelry piece, how can they find you and your team? How can they get in touch with you?
Right now we only have one authorized dealer here in Palma, but we are available to deliver anywhere in the world through our website at houseofwunder.com.
Mm-hmm.
You feel free to purchase directly or to create an appointment to meet with our concierge and have a digital presentation out of our concierge studio with the selection of product that you're exactly interested in. And we will be expanding our distribution as time goes on.
Mm-hmm. And also I think one thing that we didn't mention is I think all your timepieces are strictly limited, each edition.
Yes, we are limited editions for every model.
Mm-hmm.
The steel, I believe we are 500 units, the bicolor two-tone at 250 units, and 50 units for the gold watches.
Yeah. All right, wonderful. So we will also put in the show notes the exact, the spelling of houseofwunder.com and the way how to get also in touch with the concierge of House of Wunder. So Michael, again, thank you. This was such a wonderful discussion. And for all of you listening to this or watching this on YouTube, also thank you for watching and listening. If you found this episode useful and similar to the others, follow and share so that we get the word out. We have two Substacks. One is daniellanger.substack.com, where I'm publishing every Friday an in-depth report on what is going on in the luxury market. It's called Langer on Luxury. And then we have also a second Substack, Equity Intelligence, substack.com. And on Equity Intelligence, we provide more behind the scenes of each episodes so that you can go deeper. So follow us there. And again, Michael, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you,
Thank you.
If this changed how you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Bookmark this show, new episodes regularly, The Future of Luxury with Dr. Daniel Langer.